Good. Mr. Tim Sebastian, welcome to Tunis.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
You know that the elections of the 23rd of October have been described as fair and transparent by foreign observers and foreign governments. What is your own interpretation or understanding of fairness and transparency in elections?
The test is whether you think it's fair and transparent. It doesn't matter what the foreigners think, it matters what you think, the Tunisians. And by and large, you seem to be happy with the results of it. You got who you voted for. The count went well. No special irregularities were noticed or observed. You got a good election.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of the current political situation in Tunisia? Do you believe we are on the right track as an observer?
Again, it doesn't matter whether I think you're on the right track. It depends whether you are happy with what you've got. But as I say, you had what appears to Tunisians and the outside world to have been a free election. That's quite an achievement after a revolution, less than a year after a revolution, 9 months or so after a revolution. That's very quick. To move to the essential part of the democracy, which is to have a free election after so many years of dictatorship, I think it's a fantastic achievement. And to have done it relatively smoothly, I think Tunisians should feel pretty proud of themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, you know that some people claim that the rise of Islamists to power is a potential threat to democracy, to the newly born democracy here in Tunisia, and also to the stability in the region.
I don't think it's a threat if you get the government democratically elected.
Mm-hmm.
Nahda, the Islamist party, won their votes freely and fairly. That's not a threat to anybody. What they then go on to do is something that the public will be watching carefully, not just to see whether the reality matches the rhetoric, whether their actions live up to the promises that they made before they were elected. And you'll have a year before the next elections to see whether that's in fact the case.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that they should be given a chance? Actually, they have the chance, but what's next?
But they won it fairly. Of course they should get the chance. I mean, they won it in a free and fair vote, which is a huge achievement. So absolutely they should be given a chance. But like all governments, they should be held to account.
Mr. Tim Sebastian, tell us more about this project of the New Arab Debate here in Tunis.
Well, the idea is that we try to encourage young people especially to take part in political debating, which is all about holding their politicians to account, asking them to account for what they've done and what they haven't done, for the money they took and the money they left behind. Mm-hmm. I think it's an essential exercise in democracy, debating. And I've come here now, this is the third time since the revolution, and find people so keen to take part in this form of political activity. Really having their say, getting listened to, listening to the other point of view, even if they don't like it, and coming up with a conclusion about a way forward, what kind of society they want and how they want to participate in it. So I think it's a very valuable exercise. I'm delighted to make a small contribution, if I can, to provide people the platform, especially young people, the platform from which to debate. And I'm really heartened by the way people are embracing the idea.
Is this project of new debates, new Arab debates, similar to the Doha debates?
It's similar, but there are differences. Differences in format. We're going to take votes before the debate and after to see whether people change their minds during the course of the discussion. I think that's important. And I think that one of the most valuable things of a debate is that people come away saying, I did change my mind. I did start to think differently. I argued, I questioned, but at the end of the day, I came away thinking differently. And if we can get people to do that, then I'll be really pleased.
Okay. You know that the wave of the revolution started here in Tunisia and it has reached the shores of Libya, Egypt. Today we have also Yemen and Syria. What's next? Do you think this wave is going to stop somewhere, to disappear somewhere?
I think it's impossible to say because it's so different in each country. The conditions are so different. I mean, you take Egypt, which was the next country after Tunisia to have an uprising. Things have gone very differently in Egypt from Tunisia, but then the essential conditions are different. There are 40 million poor people there. There's an army that still has emergency powers, is still in power itself, has tried 12,000 civilians through military courts over the last 8 months, still keeps the emergency legislation in place. Things are very different there, which is one of the reasons I think people in Tunisia can feel very proud of what they've done. They've done it smoothly, they've done it in a regular, normal, democratic way, despite the fact that for 25 years they had no democracy whatsoever. It's quite an achievement.
So, Mr. Tim Sebastian, what is your advice to the Tunisian media? You know that you're journalists and you've been working all over the world. You've been working for the BBC and you have a long experience. So, what is your advice?
Well, my advice is the same to Tunisian journalists as it is to any journalist anywhere. As far as possible, try to be the watchdogs of your society. Try to check what the politicians are doing. Try to ask the difficult questions and try to hold people to account. Because the public expects you to do it. You work for the public. You work for the good of the public. Therefore, you work for the good of your society. And that doesn't mean siding with one political party or another. It means keeping in front of you the essential interests of the people of this country. And if governments are acting in those interests, as far as you can see, and living up to their promises, then that's fine, you report it. But if they're not, and a lot of them are not going to do, whatever society you're in, people lie, politicians lie, they cover up, they cheat. Somebody has to be making them look over their shoulder the whole time, making them worried, making them nervous, and keeping them on the straight line.
Do you think the youth will play this role?
I think they have to.
Mr. Tim Sebastian, thank you very much.
Great pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.